There's things to be done.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. Welcome to the first segment of the day. Yes, it's going to be a lively day, actually. We've got the morning segment with my good friend El Tel, the original Godfather. We've got a couple of pre-recorded videos, and of course, we've got the game later on tonight. The game? Yeah, we're back in, league action. Well, the cup. What cup? We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. I shall see you guys on the other side of this music intro. Yes, welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. It's the first segment of the day. It's going to be a bit of a busy day. Yeah, I'm hoping my wife will be with me on the post-game reaction. Yeah, making her debut, but not this morning. Not this morning. Anyway, those of you just kind of tuning in, I see there's been lots of comments. We're not going to go through the comments right about now. Remember, guys, keep it nice and clean. Otherwise, I'm going to have to ban a few of you. I had to ban a few of you yesterday, again, being silly and using that kind of language. We're not going to have it here. I'm kind of here. But make sure you subscribe nonetheless and hit the bell notification button so you can receive all the latest news right here on this wonderful channel. El Tel, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit sick of all the internal politics we keep hearing about at Arsenal.
Yeah. But you get that from time to time, don't you? You know, but it just seems to be a little bit more so.
It seems to have sort of taken over. Instead of talking about the football, we're talking about who's talking to whom and who's complaining to whom, and that should be kept inside the club, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Football politics, man. But there's like three bits of news I want to actually go through, and I'll probably get El Tel's opinion on. So the first bit of news I actually want to talk about is there's a particular youngster that Arsenal have actually given his first contract, and he's going to be transitioned to the senior squad. Yeah, my goodness. Yeah. Mikel Arteta apparently promotes Caitlin, and please excuse me for the pronunciation of his surname. Is it Kirijan or Kirian? To Arsenal's first team training sessions, at least. Mikel Arteta has permanently promoted this youngster ahead of the Carabao Cup clash with Manchester City. Yes, we're back in the action later on today. The 18-year-old joined from Romanian side Visual Domesti last year and signed his first professional contract with the Gunners a year ago. So Caitlin started life at Arsenal in the under 18s, but in July was fast-tracked, yes, to the under 23s due to his impressive performances. And to be honest, I think we spoke about this very, very briefly yesterday. I mean, personally, I don't get to see too much under 19s or under 23s action. Do you know? Have you heard about this youngster be promoted?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, he's a midfielder. He's not especially tall. I think just over 1.7 meters tall. So he's obviously a touch player. Good ball skills and so on. I think we're actually going through a period of some very good players coming through from our youth team. As I say, as Arsenal fans, we're deprived a little bit because a lot of other clubs allow you to watch their youth teams play and their under 23s. Arsenal kind of does it in retrospect. You can see the odd highlight here and there, but a lot of the other clubs, I'm just thinking of a couple of matches I've seen involving the under 23s against Brighton and against Leicester, and the host club always has any member of the club can freely for no cost watch the under 23s play. I'm not sure quite why Arsenal don't do that, because if every other club they're playing is showing it, then it's not going to be a mystery to scouts and other teams. And I do think now that if you like, hidden between the lines of what's going on, I think we will see Per Mertesacker boosted up from being in charge of the youth players into some sort of assistant role to Arteta, and as we've spoken about before, when your first team players aren't doing it, and we've got a big hole really. We've got some sort of elderly statesmen in their late 20s, early 30s. And then we've got a lot of youth players. We haven't got a lot of players around about the 26, 27, maybe 25 age group that are trustworthy. You know,
Mm,
Pepe certainly isn't trustworthy, and I don't think Arteta particularly likes him as a player. So I think the only answer now is to do what we've done in the past, certainly under George Graham and Bertie Mead before him, is to promote the youth players. And a good way to do that is to bring their coach up with them so that they've got the familiarity of the coach.
yeah.
And obviously, Per Mertesacker has been at Arsenal a long time, both as a player and more recently as a coach. And I think I would trust him more than I would some of the more recent assistants that Arteta's brought in. I'm not quite sure how well they're doing for him, but yeah, I think we're now at the stage where we need to see some of these young players that have been inculcated in the Arsenal methods allowed to play. Certainly, that young lad will be training with the first team. Quite a
Mm.
few other people are, and the match tomorrow evening, hopefully, we'll
Today.
see. Or today, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, we're having a little bit of fun with that one.
Yeah.
But you definitely want to see those people out there playing. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, those of you watching now, maybe at a later date, this live segment, morning segment, we're going to be doing an Easy Talk special tomorrow. I know we usually do it on a Friday, but because Friday's going to be a special day, it's like a Christmas, happy holiday season. Eltel is going to be join myself and also Gary DWTT for Easy Talk special, where we're going to be talking about the youngsters, Arsenal, on the verge of losing a couple of youngsters, one of which is Balogun. But anyway, we'll be talking about that tomorrow on the East Talk at 7:30 p.m. UK time. The other bit of news I wanted to talk about was, Gary Neville has spoken about his verdict on Arsenal so far. Are Arsenal going to get relegated? And Gary Neville has told his self-titled podcast that he doesn't believe Arsenal will be relegated this season. Oh my goodness. The vote of confidence. Arsenal, as we know, slipped down the Premier League. Terry, are we in 15th or 16th place? I think we're still in 15th place.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to keep a weather eye on the fact that we are pretty close to the teams that to the bottom three places, and there is a possibility that Arsenal could go down.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we've got a manager who's a fantastic coach. I really do. I think he's got a big future in the game. But I think there's so many other things about being a manager of a club, and it all seemed to go wrong around about the time we sort of made him manager, or rather than kept him as coach.
Coach.
And
Yeah.
I think he's far better as a coach and allowing other people to involve themselves in a lot of the other man management issues, buying and selling of players. I'm sure he would want an input, but I think he's had his fingers burnt. He's brought in Willian, and it hasn't been a success. So you've got the one or two players that he's brought in. Then you've got players he hasn't brought in, but he's inherited, and he's inherited, if you like, a dodgy hand of cards. And I don't think it would be, unless we really do plummet, I think we're going to have to stick with him rather than change horses in midstream. And we're going to have to promote some of the youth players. And a couple of quick wins would put us up the table, and would all be looking at things quite differently. But he needs to turn it round. So the match
Mm,
against City in the Cup is going to feel like a free hit, really, because he's going to be
mm,
planning the sort of Chelsea match. That's far more important. So I think he will be playing a lot of the younger players against City, and win, lose or draw. The most important one is going to be the coming league matches, and the first one's Chelsea.
mm. Anyway, Neville goes on to say, I don't think they'll get relegated. That's Arsenal, that is. But the fact we are even discussing it is a real problem. We know when Arsene Wenger left, there would have been a transitional period. Unai Emery didn't work, despite he was a good coach. Mikel Arteta has demonstrated that he can coach a team and a team organized, but something is not right, and it's difficult to put your finger on it. In regards to the title, it's a bit strange. It appears that Arsenal got things wrong because Unai Emery was and is, an experienced manager, but they gave him the title of head coach, whereas Mikel Arteta, who doesn't have any experience, they changed the title from coach to manager. So they kind of got things the wrong way around as such.
Yeah, it sings out to us that we've got an upper level of management who are basically playing it by ear, and they aren't
Mm.
looking at what they should be doing. And yeah, absolutely. You and I both thought Emery had done a reasonable job. In fact, a very good job. He had all kinds of successes behind him, and now we've got Arteta a year down the line facing similar problems, player revolt, possibly people laughing at him in training and so on.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's true or not, but I do think we're having. It's a very unusual league this year. Was it Wolves lost last night?
Yeah.
The team that smashed us to bits. So it's not a usual Premier League because you haven't got the crowds there. That's all I can think is that they often say the crowd is worth an extra man, and because we haven't got crowds, then we're getting these spike results, and we're getting seven nils and crazy results that are coming out, and which you would get in training matches, of course.
Yeah.
And I think the players who are so used to playing in front of if you like, an audience, a crowd, are finding it difficult to adapt. And for anybody that has been in the performing arts of any kind, there's nothing like playing in front of an audience. Players are used to that. And when you don't have that, and then you have managers screaming instructions from the side, it's a whole different thing. And personally, if I was Arteta now, when the players take the field against City, I'd say as little as possible and just say go out and enjoy themselves. It's a free hit. Let's see how the team do without somebody barking orders and so on. So you can. I'm not saying he overcoaches them on the training pitch, but I think it should near enough stop there. And when they're actually on the field of play, which is like the stage of performance, you really don't want somebody hollering in your ear and carping from the sort of sidelines. You just want to
Yeah.
concentrate on the game as you see it. Having said that, there are so many obvious things that are wrong. And he's stuck with people like El Neni, who rarely makes a forward pass. His interceptions are weak. His tackling is weak, and he shouldn't be anywhere near Arsenal's first team. So again, I reiterate, Arteta's been given a bad hand of cards, and he needs to be allowed to play the game through. And as long as we really don't get into big trouble later on in the season in terms of being relegated, I think we've got to give him his head, give him some time. But my only worry is that the way we've got the Jarabchian and some of these guys involved in transfers. I know Wenger hated dealing with agents and super, and I'm not convinced that the backroom team and Edu have their heads around how they're going to move forwards with that. And I certainly think buying elder statesmen like Willian has turned around and bit them. And I know he went off to Dubai to look at property to buy. So I think in their heads, some of these guys are already in the, I'm going to be retiring in a 2 or 3 years time mode, and they're already thinking beyond what they're doing for Arsenal. And you can't have a player, you can't have your head in two places. You're either thinking of retiring or you're thinking of playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And the last bit of news I want to talk about was in regards to would-be captain Rob Holding, and apparently there's been some news about Arsenal opening talks to offer him a contract extension. This is coming from Football.London. Football Insiders report that Arsenal wish to extend the centre-back's deal before Holding enters the final 2 years of his contract. Next summer is added that Mikel Arteta rates a 25-year-old highly, and so do I personally, which is clear considering the bigger role he's played so far this season after starting just 6 Premier League games in the last term. Do you rate Rob Holding?
No, I don't.
All right.
Sorry.
Why?
The Well, I've seen him play well in small spaces, and he isn't easily bullied. When we played Chelsea Cup final, it was 3 years ago. Costa didn't bully him, and he was bullying every other centre back. So I do like that. He's good in small spaces, and he's a man that won't be pushed around, but he lacks pace. And I certainly wouldn't have him as one of my main centre backs. But maybe he's a good character to have in the sort of dressing room. But at this stage, I would rather be looking at Saliba and some of our younger players, because I don't really. I mean, we very nearly let him go to Newcastle, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I think the club is in a real cleft stick here. It really doesn't know which its best team are or best players are, and now we're going to hold on to him. But I just don't see him as a first team regular. He hasn't got enough pace. He's easily beaten. No, I just don't see. Oh, he doesn't attack the ball in the air as well as I'd like him to do. Although he's a big guy.
Mm.
So yes, he'd be all right as one of our reserve centre backs, but no, not as one of our main centre. But I beg to differ. But what do you see in him that you feel?
He comes up quite well against some speedy players. One thing that sticks out in my mind is when we played against Liverpool, he managed Marnie quite well. Marnie is quite a tricky attacking player, and I do get the impression he does quite well positionally most of the time. Although all the defenders they've got a mistake in them, but I do rate Rob Holding. He The only drawback with him has been his injuries. Too many injuries has hampered his progression at Arsenal. But I do like Rob Holding. I do like him. But we beg to differ. Beg to differ. Let's go into the live chat and see who's joined us this morning. We've got Ingers. Good morning, Ingers. He says insisting on playing players like William, taking Pepe off instead of him, making Holding a captain, clueless tactically. We can't score. 15th in the league. Why are we keeping this manager in charge?
Well, I agree with the first two sentences there. I mean, we, I know why we're keeping Arteta in charge, because he's a lot cheaper than all the other options. And if you bring a new man in now, he's going to demand a transfer kitty. So because the club is set and led by finances. Remember, Kroenke hasn't put a penny into the club, although we have spent a lot of money. If you look at Swiss Ramble's latest stuff online, I think we're the fourth highest spender, and we certainly aren't the best at selling players at their optimum price. So, but all he does is he keeps extending his loans and sort of, if you like, his sort of mortgages, and creates money that way. So we've just spent badly, really, and definitely spent badly. And we should be earmarking players that we know are going to. I mean, we ended up without selling Ramsey for free because he went to the end of his contract, which is mad. I mean, he could have given us £100,000 easily.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Ashton Almond, good mornings. He says, I like Holding as a professional. His character doesn't seem like someone who would give up. I just think his injury set him back, and Chambers is better. And that's what I said. I think the big minor point is, as much as a player is good, whichever position they play, they're no use to us if they're forever injured. And I think that's been the one big minus on his form and time he's been at Arsenal. Too many injuries.
Yeah.
Inga's got some statistics here. 14 points in 14 games. Proper relegation form, Terry.
Yeah, it is. It is. And then we went away and bought Partey for big money, and then the man who never gets injured, gets injured.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's just bad luck. I think the EPL is very, very pacey. The midfield area, once players come into the EPL that have worked abroad, they suddenly look quite slow, because I think it really is fast. And it's interesting that with Partey trying to keep up with the sort of pace and all these athletes around him, and he's immediately pulled a thigh muscle, I think it is.
Yeah.
And we've got Aubameyang's pulled a calf muscle. It is an athletic game. It's the athleticism is key. I know it's always been looked upon as being a fast league, but it's gone beyond that now. If you look at all the teams that have sort of beaten us quite well, it's that midfield box, it's that area in midfield where they're striding through us. And where I sit in Arsenal, when we're all at the Arsenal, I've got a good view of that midfield area, and they seem to be at wide open spaces that the opposition players are just running through at breakneck speed, and we couldn't get even near them. So, I mean, Xhaka being the obvious case in point, he just doesn't cover space. Torreira doesn't either. He's a good player in small spaces, you know. So, and even Partey, who has, as I say, we've never noticed him being not particularly pacey, but he's always been able to keep up with things, and he struggled. So we're going to have to look at athletes.
It doesn't bode well. Holdings are very, very average. It doesn't help when Bellerin is right back because he'll always be left exposed as Arteta's adopted son and has no positional awareness.
Yeah, and we've got the case of Bellerin, who's been with us, what is he, 25, 26? So
26,
he's been with us a long time. And if he hasn't nailed down the right back spot, which he hasn't, because we've seen Ainsley Maitland-Niles play there and play very, very well, even though I don't see him as an eventual right back. I think this is the time to cash in on Bellerin. We could get big money. I know Barca are looking at him. And this is what a good club does. It looks at a player, pumps his price up. Barca are unusually in a poor run of form. And if they're willing to pay big money for Bellerin, then that's where you make the money. Yeah,
I agree. Bellerin just never kicked in form in his first two seasons. Yeah. I just get the impression he came over in 2011, and I just get the impression that it's gone a little bit stale for him, and maybe a new challenge will do him well. Will do him well.
The thing with Bellerin was he made up for any deficiencies by blistering pace. And once he had that, was it Cruciate? He had a big
ACL. Yeah.
And he came back and he'd lost that extra, yard or two of pace. And suddenly you notice all the other elements of his game that aren't very good. So, yeah, that's one I would earmark to sell at the highest price possible.
Yeah. Good morning, Colin Young. He says, good morning, Uncle Alex. Behave yourself. And all the gooners out there. He isn't someone who would down tools. I think you're talking about Holding. I feel El Neni and Holding are around because there are characters. That is a good thing, but they lack the quality. And I've got to say that they do lack that quality. But we need fighters in the squad. Not many fighters in the squad, Terry. Not many.
Well, yeah, I've heard people saying that Nketiah, who was let go by Chelsea's youth team, that his natural level is not for a team that's in the sort of top four. I think it's a bit early to sort of say that, but it's not looking good because unless the ball is in the penalty area, he's not a great holder up of the ball. And I do worry that, when you're in any job or any situation in life that you're used to the people around you, you can lower your standards because you're so used to that standard around you. And I worry that Arsenal are beginning to sort of, we're now seeing that, and we're seeing Arsenal accepting that El Neni, who didn't ever look like a good player, suddenly looks reasonable because he's got an engine in him. His stamina's good. He really isn't about Arsenal standard, and sooner or later we've got to bite the bullet. I know Arteta thinks he's doing a job because he scampers around the pitch and he does close people down, but of course he can't tackle them. So, he's doing one job in closing off passing lanes, but his tackling is very poor. Yeah.
Oh, Ashton, El Neni probably admitted to downing tools on Unai. He's not a good choice. Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Wow. Well, you know what, Colin? If that is the case, we are seeing exactly that now. We're seeing a whole group of players downing tools.
Yeah. Ingus goes on to say, how far have we fallen, pinning our hopes in midfield on El Neni and Holding defence? We deserve to be 15th with that kind of a mindset. Honestly, holding captain thing is a bit disappointing. That makes our CV centre back set. How the heck does Saliba get in now?
Well, do you know what? I'd play him against City. I'd just bring him in, put a more experienced guy alongside him, and say, "Go on, son, go for it." You know,
Yeah,
lift his spirit. We you know, it'd be lovely to say we're going to win that game, but we won't win it the way we've been playing our first team recently. So why not play some of the young boys? It's a free
mm,
hit. Go for it. And it
yeah,
wouldn't. What a lovely fillip for Saliba. He's had a difficult year, and just get him out there, as I say, surround him by at least one more centre back who's sort of been around the block, knows maybe Luis or somebody or Mari, and say go out there, boy, and play. And
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Nah, El Neni didn't down tools with Emery. Emery didn't use him as he lost confidence and had to go out on loan. Well, I hadn't heard any stories about El Neni downing tools. I've never heard that, but I don't
No.
want to comment on that. But yeah, it will be interesting to see if any of the players hand in transfer requests in January. What do you think, Tel?
I I think there's actually a culture at Arsenal now of sitting on these big contracts. I remember when Ian Wright started rowing with George Graham, I think it was, and he handed in a transfer request, or was it Bruce Rioch? Maybe it was Bruce Rioch, and those were the days when we had players who were busting to sort of win games and win trophies. Now it seems as though they're all happy to have their agents negotiate massive fat contracts and then they sit on them. So it would be refreshing if some of them on the big contracts, i.e. Shaka, i.e. Wouldn't it be lovely if Ozil said, "Do you know what? My time's up. I'm happy to go. Please sell me." Wouldn't that be wonderful? And I don't mind taking a drop in salary. Wouldn't that be fantastic? The
Not going to
guy
happen.
already must have a bank account beyond all dreams of any normal person. Wouldn't it be wonderful if he waved off into the sunset? He's bound to get Turkey. He's a demigod over there. They think he's absolutely wonderful. So by all means, go off to Turkey or the States and. But just move away. We've got too many people on fat contracts.
Yeah, yeah. Holding's a good squad player. Captain is a massive stretch. The problem is we're thin for options in like a model type captain. That's the problem. We don't have any obvious options, Terry. So I'm thinking
Yeah,
maybe Holding,
it's
Tierney,
funny that
maybe.
years ago they used to interview players in the studio after games, and the player would turn up in trousers and shirt. And all we seem to do now is interview them when they've just played, and they're full of the game and either the elation or disappointment. It would be nice to see what Holding's like as a person. It may well be that he's a good lad to have around the sort of dressing room, and maybe that there's always room for one or two players like that. But I just don't see him as a captain. And I don't see him as a. If you're talking about the next year, I don't think we should be looking at him other than as a squad player.
Okay, okay, all right. I never left Unai in. That's what you mean.
Never
That's what
left
you
him
mean by
in.
that. Yeah. Okay. I think one thing is certain with Emery, we wouldn't be in the lower part of the table and would score more. Well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? The grass is not always green on the other side. I mean, I can't foresee the future. But you don't know. You could say that, but maybe the players would have down tools at this point of the season. You can't say that. You can't say that. I don't think so anyway. Do
I
you
was
think we'd
just
have been
thinking,
in the lower part of the table if Unai Emery
well,
was here,
no,
Terry?
no, we certainly wouldn't. We certainly wouldn't. But I would have thought that if players start taking the mickey out of the way the sort of manager speaks and acts, then that's the point at which the directors should be going into that dressing room and well, not before a match, but talking to the players and saying this is totally unacceptable. This is the kind of mindset that once it kicks into a club, the club's only going one way, and that's
Yeah.
down. So if We aren't sure, but if that is the kind of stupid mindset going on, then I would sell those players straight away,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'd place my hope in the younger players.
yeah. Colin says these guys make a big deal that Arteta got Partey. Unai is the one that put the Arsenal eyes on Partey. He was never backed. Positively shameful mistake. Yeah, I completely concur with those comments there, Colin.
And
Um,
probably well that Emery wanted Zaha, the guy at Crystal Palace, who's also an Arsenal fan. I've
okay.
never understood why, when we've got two or three players that we're looking at, we don't pick the one who's actually an Arsenal fan, because he will die for the club. He will give you another 20-30% because the badge, the shirt colour
Mm,
means a lot to him. He's never going to be a mercenary. Of course, his agent is going to be trying to get the best possible transfer for him. But you know what? He can lean on the agent and say, I want to play for Arsenal. I'm willing to play for less money than I would for any other club. So I would be looking at people like that. And he's a ready-made winger. And
yeah,
apparently, all reports, he's I mean, he's a good player anyway, but he's improved a lot this season in terms of being able to look around and lay off the ball at suitable moments. But again, we don't seem to buy. There's so many players around that over the years that have been Arsenal fans that would have improved Arsenal, and they don't seem to think, oh, let's buy him. So
isn't
yeah,
Jack
I would.
Grealish an Arsenal fan?
He is. He is. I think so. Yeah. There you go.
Tori Hakim, good morning. This is a hi, Alex. Good morning, bro. For me, captain should have been given to Tierney, not Holding. Tierney has Arsenal at heart, then Holding. Tierney or Saka is better for me. Okay, yeah.
Yep. Absolutely, Torre. Yep.
Mr. 999 says that Arteta until the bitter end. After reassessing, I'm going to back my manager until the board decide it's enough. Likewise, so am I. So am I.
Yep.
Who am
Yep.
I to say he should be out? Let the board do their jobs. That's why they're there. They're paid to make the big decisions. So I agree with that. The board have the ability to keep or sack him, not us. There's a reason for that. Mr. 999, I'll give
Yep.
you the live comment of the morning so far. Yeah, the board are there for a reason. If they decide that it's time for him to fall on his sword, then so be it. Not me. Not me. I don't like to see managers lose their jobs, and that's why I keep trying to be consistent. I didn't want Wenger to be sacked. I didn't want Unai Emery to be sacked. Period. So that's why I'm consistently saying that I'm going to back whichever manager comes in Arsenal. You've got to support the manager. But that's just
Yeah.
me, Terry. That's just me.
Well, I also feel that, if you had a good captain out there, as we had with Tony Adams, the captain directs play on the field.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
when Brian Clough was at Nottingham Forest and they were doing brilliantly and winning two Champions Leagues, he'd sometimes take a weekend off and go off to Spain with his family. And they'd say, well, why aren't you at the match? And he'd say, because I've trained them. They know what they're doing. They don't always need me there. And I used to watch whatever score happened in that match. And invariably, Forest won. So
Mm.
once you've got the team running and cooking and doing what you want them to do, you don't have to keep shouting at them from the sidelines. If anything, it confuses things. So I would like to see a little bit less of him shouting at them and allowing the team to organise a lot more of it on the field themselves. And as I was saying, that comes mostly from the captain. Now, I know people do tend to like captains that are centre backs because they see, or at least a defensive midfielder like Vieira, so they can see what exactly is going on. So ideally, yes, but the guy that screams out as captain material currently is Tierney.
Really.
I've been quite pleased with Leno's things he's said about the team. Now, I don't think he's a world-class goalkeeper, and I think he's readily beaten in the sort of corners of the goal, which Emmy wasn't. He covered ground. He did the 2 or 3 steps, and then he could get into the corners. But I like the things that he is saying. Leno, I mean. He's saying a lot of sensible stuff. He can see all the game in front of him, so he might even be an option. But I certainly don't see anybody outside of those two being captain.
That could be the making of him, Leno, because you can see he's not the most communicative of goalkeepers. So maybe giving him the captain's armband could be a watershed moment for him, where we can actually hear him shouting at, barking at instructions to the back four. It could be the
Exactly,
making of him. Could be.
exactly.
Could be.
Good one. Yeah.
Ashton says Chambers should replace Holding, then go one proper centre back to replace Mustafi, Socrates, and Luis. If you can get a right-sided centre back, use Mavropanos. I forgot about Mavropanos. Is he still an Arsenal player?
Yeah, he's playing out in Germany. I'm trying to think who he's playing for, but I know he's playing well. I've seen quite a few reports, and he's matured into a very good centre back. I mean, the guy's about 6'4" tall. He's an absolute mountain, and if he's playing well, let's bring him back home next season.
But what is it with these players? Yeah, Mkhitaryan is doing the business now that he's left Arsenal. What is it with these players? Once they leave Arsenal, it's like they found their place to be. Could be.
I really do think the EPL is so fast paced that it's the athletic players. If you look at the players now that are doing well, all these guys, is it Morrison he calls himself? These guys can really go cover space, and unfortunately that's the way the sort of game is played here at 110 mile an hour. And I noticed when Ramsey was with us, he called it. He put himself down as Aaron Ramsey, athlete footballer, and he put athlete first. And it seems to me that athleticism is the name of the game. And if you're not faster and stronger, it's a bit like men playing amongst boys. The one thing you always notice when you're playing against people that are smaller than you and they're younger kids is that your strength gets past them, your speed gets past them. And you look at Arsenal, and we're all small space players. We're all that I think it's called a rondo, where they all stand in a circle and tap the ball to each other.
Yeah.
We're very good kind of game, but when we've got to play into space and get players to sort of run into acres of green grass, we don't seem to have the legs, and at the moment we don't seem to have the sort of confidence to sort of do it either, which is very worrying.
Yeah. Colin Young says, in the meantime, I will always root for Arsenal. The manager is the manager till he is not. I do not like him. I do not think he's good enough, but for now, he is the manager. Well, it's not a popularity contest, is it? Even George Graham, he said that the players didn't like him, but that it's not a popularity contest. They're there to do a job and listen to the manager, not the other way around. Toure says Arteta should change methods of playing. His selection and positions are not good at all. Using players that are not supposed to play at all at Arsenal is a very big mistake, man. Yeah, we've spoken so many times, Terry, about the Xhaka syndrome, the Willian syndrome, picking players who are not running, not productive. Why does he keep choosing those players? Your guess is as good as mine, Tory. But
you know what? I did hear a rumor that obviously he had to go to Stan Kroenke and ask for the money to afford Willian's wages, and I think he's kind of hung his hat on that, and he's playing him because he's hoping he can play him into form. And although in the last 5 or 10 minutes of the last match he did look a little bit better playing in that number 10 role, earlier on in the match, in the first half, he should have been hooked off because he wasn't moving into passing lanes. He was hiding. And I think Arteta has to bite the bullet and say, I got that one wrong. And he will be the first player I'd sell come January. In fact, I'd have him lined up now to be off somewhere else.
Yeah. Colin Young, exactly. It is not our job as fans to sack a manager. We're fans to support the club. What's there is there. Exactly. We're only there to give our opinions. I would prefer Guendouzi to come back. Willian, Xhaka, and Ceballos have behaved badly off the pitch and not held to the same standards. Would you bring back Matteo Guendouzi? Sorry?
Well, obviously, there's been a massive falling out between Guendouzi and Arteta, and that's why he's got him out. And he did have his previous manager was being interviewed, German guy, and he was complaining that he was very difficult to manage, and he'd stand up to you in the dressing room and there'd be shouting matches and so on. But yes, I can see that if you're a leader of anything in your job, you've got to treat all the people you're responsible for equally. And if one person has broken a rule, and he did by grabbing hold of that guy Mope by the throat, and then Shaka does exactly the same, get him out. You've got to be consistent. Otherwise, the players who are going to support you are going to say, well, you've got one rule for that young guy and a different rule for Shaka. So absolutely, I think he was, I probably wouldn't have got rid of Guendouzi, but with his history, there's probably been a lot of rows that we don't know about. But at the end of the day, put your foot down, even if you have to lose 4 or 5 players. If they're going to challenge you and they're not doing the job for Arsenal Football Club on the field, then at the earliest opportunity, as long as you can buy a decent replacement or you have a youth player that can step up, get them out, because you've got to. Basically, Arteta, as long as he can get through this difficult period now, he should be saying to Stanley Kroenke and Edu, let me have a team that I want out there. Let me have a couple of transfer windows. He's said several times this is not a quick fix. He did wonderfully well to get an FA Cup. People keep forgetting how difficult it is to win the FA Cup. And we've won it more times than any other club. It's a wonderful thing. I dreamt of winning it as a child, and we failed and we failed, and
Likewise,
we went out the third round at York and the third round at Wrexham. You know, we've all been there, players, supporters who've watched Arsenal for sort of many years. So winning the FA, I remember when we went a goal down to Chelsea in the final, and I was in Ireland trying to pick up a signal and watch it. And I went down and spoke to my wife and sister. They said, how's the match going? I said, 1-0 down. Oh, no, they said. And I went back up, and within an hour, I was able to come down and say, we've won the cup. It's an enormous thing. My son came with me. He was only a little boy when we beat United on penalties, you know. And I said, Mike, you've seen Arsenal win the FA Cup. This is a big moment. That's glory. That's glory. You know, so let's not put Arteta down. He won the FA Cup. We had to beat some good players on the way. And, you know, he beat Man City. He beat Chelsea. And then he won the Charity Shield, albeit on penalties. But, you know, he did well at the beginning. And he got the sort of bounce that all managers get. Now he's biting into the job. And he's making it obvious that there are players who shouldn't be there. So if Guendouzi's is ill-mannered and won't do what is told and is ill-disciplined, get him out. Lay down a marker. Same with William, Xhaka. If they're not doing the right thing and letting... How many times has Xhaka got to embarrass us as Arsenal fans? How many times are we going to allow the man to sort of do that? I'm sorry, you're wearing a cannon on a red and white jersey. If you can't keep your hands off other people on the pitch, if you see the red mist, get out of our club. Go and do that somewhere. We have standards.
Yeah, but it seems to be slipping. Anyway. Mr. 999 says, Ingers, if he gets sacked after the Chelsea game, then so be it. But I'm sticking with him until it happens.
Yeah, that's the right way.
Yeah, Tory, don't have anything plan B. And Arsenal as a head coach or his manager, every day, same match, same players who do not change anything. Honestly, City is going to give us more goals than we expected. Well, if it happens, it happens. But we've got to try and live in hope. Live in hope.
Yeah.
That Arsenal and Arteta will get things right. Sorry, Terry, you want to say something?
No, I'm thinking we do sometimes look like City Mark II. We do look like it does look. We do play very similarly to City. We have fast forwards. We don't have big centre forwards. And certainly with all the crosses raining in, if we had Giroud, he would have scored goals. But City don't do that, and Guardiola doesn't like soccer played that way. So I'm afraid at the moment it does really look as though he's following mostly the kind of things that Guardiola did. I do hope we end up promoting. We've got a guy in the under-23s called Muller, who's
Mm.
6'4", young guy. Now he's very young, but you know what? Let's put him out against City, or at least bring him on in the second half, because having a big guy up front and balls raining in is. I mean, what's his name? Willock the other day outjumped Mina, didn't
Yeah,
he? Mina's 6'4" or 5", and Willock is 6'1", and he outjumped him, but unfortunately he misdirected the sort of header. So there is a place always, always, always in a team for a big centre forward. They don't have to have pace, and Giroud certainly doesn't, but they need to have good touch, which Giroud has. And even if you don't play him in any more than half of the games, it's always a plan B. When things are not working and you're trying to play the through balls, and we haven't got people to play the through balls, but we do have people who can cross the ball well, like Tierney, then bring on your big centre forward. Plan B.
yeah. True Guna, good morning. He says, in Arteta we trust. He's our manager, not out manager. He's come in to the worst Arsenal squad ever seen. He's had to deal with COVID with a club that is run terribly, and it's his first job. One FA Cup. All those facts there, True Guna, you've mentioned there is true. He's had to deal
Yeah.
with COVID. He contracted COVID, didn't he, Terry? I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did. I was just thinking about the FA Cup. We talked about Brian Clough before, that won the Champions League twice with Nottingham Forest. Brian Clough never won the FA Cup.
Yeah. 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 That's a
So
good point.
you know, So please, younger fans or new fans to Arsenal, don't denigrate the FA Cup. It's an enormous trophy. It's one of the world's best cup competitions, probably the number one football cup competition in the world for club versus club. And it's a tricky trophy to win. And we did it the hard way. We beat the best teams around. So he's bought himself, I think, this season. Leave him there this season. I think he'll get us out of this, and then give him the January transfer window and at least the summer transfer window. Maybe change the backroom team. Maybe bring Mertesacker in with some of the younger players. I know he's not too happy with his backroom team, and he had to assemble it very quickly
Mm.
when the finally came. So maybe we need to relook at what's happening there, and we certainly need to look at how we recruit players. And as Wenger did, he rarely bought players that were pushing in towards the sort of 30 mark, because even if you get a good year out of them, suddenly you've got them on a longer contract. So we've got to look at that. We've got to look at, are we going to use stat DNA and look at players? Are we going to use super agents? And it seems to me the fact that Edu has the same super agent as Willian as very suspicious. It sounds like insider trading to me. And if you're not allowed to do that in a primary school, then how comes you're allowed to do it in a big football club?
Yeah. My preferred midfield today would be Emma Smith-Rowe, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and Chambers. Well, Chambers. Yeah, I get the picture with Chambers. We're not sure where his best position is with
Well,
Chambers.
funny he should say that. I've never rated Chamber as either a right back or as a centre back.
Mm.
He's a little bit small to be a centre back, but his timing of challenges is pretty good. But he's a little bit one paced. But actually, ever since I saw him play, I thought, why don't they try him as the defensive midfielder? Just sit him in front of the back four or five or whatever, and yeah, go for it. I mean, I think Ainsley, although his defensive qualities are very good, he's actually a box to box player, and I'd put him there. Emil Smith Rowe is a lovely touch player, lovely
Mm.
touch player. He sees passes that only the very best do. So maybe put Chambers at the core of your midfield and play Smith Rowe and Ainsley a little bit further forward. Go for
Mm.
it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
The future is in our youth, which we do currently have. I just cannot see that ruined because it was the way out. I see at the moment. We hark on so many times about the youngsters, Emma Smith Rose, Miguel Aziz's, the Bellinghams, the Cotterells. It's their time. They've been knocking on the senior door for the longest time. So the future's bright. If only we couldn't use them. If only we would use them. But
And you know what? We've lost some good players that have gone off to other clubs and done incredibly well because they didn't see a door opening for them in the first team. Well, do you know what? It's the force majeure of us doing so badly is now opening the door to maybe those players coming through, showing up the first team players, getting in there, doing a good job. And a few of them might even cement a first team place straight away. So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Ingers comes back and says, True Gunner, really? At the worst squad? I'm pretty sure Emery had a worse squad than Arteta, and the board didn't give him what he asked for. Arteta needed to manage championship side first to gain experience. The second part of your debate or your sentence, now I do agree. I mean, ideally, you want a manager literally going through, the lower leagues, trying to get, experience, not coming in, and managing one of the top, maybe top 4 clubs in the country. I've never seen that before. But like I said, he's here. We've got to support him because it doesn't help that you've got people saying instantly, Arteta out. And I always say, what happens if we've got an Allegri in, and he too starts to lose some games? The board can't give another manager a war chest. It
Yeah.
can't happen, and the dynamics changes so quickly when you've got a new manager come in. Stability above anything else there.
Yeah, I also don't like the fact that I keep hearing that Willian and Lewis went to Edu. It's smack going back your immediate boss's back and trying to undermine him. I don't like that. And even if they didn't mean it like that, if I'd have been Edu, I'd have said, if you've got something to say, you say it in front of the whole team. Don't come into my start complaining about it. Say it when we have a full team talk, and yes, you're fine. But I'm not having this thing of you telling me, if you like, you're making me bullets that I have to fire, which is what I hear. Now, those guys have a history of causing trouble, and I'm very surprised that we brought them in when we knew that they had a history of getting rid of managers. It's like importing someone else's problems into your own club.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to find my point of reference. There's been so many comments in the live chat. Guys, thank you. I see the numbers fluctuation, just over 100 viewers watching live, both Terrell, Eltel, and myself. But I've lost there's so many comments. Where was my point of reference? Just spare me a second. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to have to just chip in. All right. So,
yeah, that's if you want me to talk about tactics.
then go for it, Tel. Yeah.
We're kind of talking so much about who's saying what to whom and who's downing tools and so on. I mean, he did use a few matches ago. He used a kind of a box formation in midfield to try and really work that center area that we're so often run through. And I would be keen to be looking at how he's organising tactics again. I think was it our most recent match. He the first half, he did the usual thing of creating a horseshoe shape where we were playing down either wing. And then in the second half, he played the team were playing a lot more balls through the centre. I think that is the way to go. I know we've got Tierney and he's a fantastic full-back and wing-back. But we've got to look at more of finding players that can play through that middle part of the field. I think Emile Smith-Rowe is a good player to put in there. I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a box-to-box player, perfect player, plenty of pace, plenty of power, and he should be in there running from box to box, controlling a lot of that midfield. Maybe put Chambers behind him as an insurance policy so that when he's moving forward and Emile Smith-Rowe's moving forward, Chambers sits and holds. So I'll be looking at how am I going to get my players working that central midfield, and you're going to have to do it with athletes. You won't do it with small space touch players. You'll need athletes in there. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Tel. You give me enough time to find my point of reference. Thank you for that, Tel. Right, so Ingus has said that for me, the board are at fault the most. Binay and Edu, because of them, Arteta is there, and players like Willian are brought in.
Yeah.
We all sat here and said he was first appointed that he would need 5 windows to implement enough change to the squad. He's had 1.5, 1.5. It's always gets worse before it gets better. You've got to be patient. And that's what I said, so reactionary fan base that we have there. Terry, for me, I've been supporting Arsenal for the best part of 40 odd years. And the lowest point for me was to see maybe Arsene Wenger's maybe last season where there were fans fighting amongst themselves, not so much in the stadium, but outside the stadium. That was the lowest point. You got fans who support the same club fighting each other. What have we become? And so we've got social media, and I'm part of social media, and we've just crossed the 10,000 K mark. With that level of audience, there comes great responsibility, and we have the responsibility to make sure that we keep a balanced view, and we don't have people, being divisive, trying to bring negativity. But I will always do my best to bat that away with my opinion. But Terry, what's going on with the fan base? So
Well,
reactionary.
yeah, I think
Wanting an
people.
instant fix. It can't happen. Things takes time. Over a period of time, things will get better. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
sorry, Terry.
have got to keep in life, in any job you do, in any walk of life. I think you have to keep an open mindset, and don't lock yourself into, I think this is exactly how we should be playing, because things change. I know, because I've been involved in music my whole life, I've been proved wrong quite a few times. I remember when Bruce Springsteen came out, and I just didn't think he was much good at all. I didn't see anything in his music, but I was proved wrong. I remember I was in a band and they wanted to do one of his hits, and I said, "Oh no, it isn't a good song," and it ended up being a great song. And I had to eat humble pie. And I think the same thing happens, not just musically, but everything that happens in your life. Don't just lock yourself in and say, "This is the way Arsenal should be playing," or "This is the style of music I should be playing." I remember when reggae first came through, a lot of people hated reggae, but I
Yeah,
loved it because I was young enough to take it on board, I suppose. So the same with looking at football. It's not a religion. You don't have to lock yourself into it and say, "I'm never going to change." What you need to do is keep an open mindset, and football evolves. I did read a good book recently. In fact, Al, I keep meaning to lend you this. I've got it on.
yeah. I've been waiting.
Saying this, it's up there. Oh, here
Hey,
up there.
give it to me virtually. Yeah.
I'll drop. I'll leave it on your sort of doorstep. It's
All right.
zonal marking
Yeah.
by Michael Cox. Good. And it looks at the way football tactics have changed over the years. Absolutely fascinating read, and uh, it forces you to think of an open mind. How does football develop? I would say, actually, on that, the one thing we're screaming out for is a dribbler.
Yeah.
We don't, and probably our best dribbler at the moment is probably Saka.
Yeah.
Saka, that goal he set up recently, where he went through several players and then pinged the ball. We haven't got players that are able to. It's constant pass, and we haven't got anybody who takes on. And the thing is, if you do it near the penalty area and they bring you down, it's a penalty straight away. So I would be looking at bringing in dribblers. I believe there's a guy, you'll probably be able to pronounce his name better than me, who plays for Norwich. Buendia, is it? Is that how you pronounce
Buendia. Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Emi Buendia. Yeah.
And from what I've read, he's a wonderful dribbler. And he's got vision. He plays the through balls. I really feel the team is screaming out for somebody who can take on people. And we've spoken about Pepe, and I've had a look at Pepe when he played for sort of Lille. And when he played for Lille, he tended to go past one player and then pass it. But now he gets the ball, dwells on it, and then he's got two or three players to try and dribble past. It doesn't work. He's more of an inside forward anyway. So I feel we could do with at least one more dribbler that is willing to take people on. William, I think his days of dribbling past people are gone. He's okay over 3 or 4 yards and can just about create some space. But I'd like to see a dribbler come into the team.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. 999. The toxicity towards the manager reflects on the players. They see this stuff. Hardcore Arteta out fans are only making it worse, respectfully. LOL.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure these footballers receive hundreds of thousands of pounds. Don't care what I say, Mr. 999. I just want my club to win, and it's not happening. There's a funny one just to break the seriousness. When Alex is late, but you're scared to mention it because they give you that look. What do you see on Arteta to make you believe that he is the man to take us forward and succeed? He's not tactically advanced, like Tori Hakim has said, has no plan B. Terry, do you want to respond
Yeah,
to that?
tactically, he's in a cleft stick because he's got a vision of how he wants Arsenal to play, but he hasn't got the players. So he's got all the ideas, and obviously he's worked with Guardiola, who, whatever you say about Guardiola, is an excellent tactician. And so is Klopp with this gegenpressing. But as James reminded us on the last podcast, Klopp's last season, his previous club to Liverpool, they were playing very, very poorly. They weren't playing well. Part of the problem with this pressing and gegenpressing is it requires an enormous amount of energy and pace. And players sometimes just get mentally tired or physically tired or both. And I really do think we've got a little bit of that going on now at Arsenal. I remember when George Graham first took over, Paul Davis, who wasn't known as a fast player, I've never seen the boy run so fast. Everywhere on the pitch. The very first match that George Graham took over, Paul Davis was an absolute revelation, and it was the sort of new manager bounce, you know. And I think Arteta's now got to the point where he's asking them to do the kind of running that a lot of them aren't willing to do. And then you see the problem is you can't go, well, I'll take him off, like we all wanted him to take Willian off halfway through the last match, because who does he put in his place? And he doesn't trust the young players. He must be having people tell him, don't put your trust in the young players, because that's your final card. If you play the young players, say you played Saliba and Saliba had a bad game and he scored an own goal, or he whatever he did, got sent off or something, suddenly he's played his last card, and then he really in trouble. So I think he's holding it back, but I think it's got to the stage now where in the cup games he's got to play his younger players with a smattering of older players around him, and then keep the other players, the players he can trust, like Tierney, rested for the really big games. But yeah, I would play the younger players now. He's got to the stage where he's got to start playing that final card.
Yeah. Let me try and run through these very, very quickly. I know there's just hundreds and hundreds of comments in live chat. Guys, thank you so very much. I was going to say good morning, but it's good afternoon on a Tuesday afternoon here in the UK. I've got El Tel, the original Godfather, doing some live news and also interacting with each and every one of you in the live chat. I don't really watch too many podcasts, probably maybe 3 podcasts I actually watch. And those 3 that I watch, that you don't really get them going through the live chat and interacting and answering questions and responding. Whereas on Canal 40 we do. We try our utmost best. But it's quite difficult to finish all of them. We've been going for an hour and 3 minutes, Hotel, and it's gone so very, very quick. So I will try and go through just the last few. I do apologize if I don't get to read yours out. So I'm giving you the heads up now. So this one, I'm liking this one, Tel. I'm excited to be watching this channel during the crisis. Mano, thank you so very much. And he says, you rock, Cannon Fodder. Thank you. Thank you so very much for that one. Let me see if I can, who else I can give a chance to. All right, okay, this one here. The fellowship says, how can interview you on live stream and then you interview me on camera? Well, send me an email. The email is in the comments box below, or send me a DM and we'll talk about doing like an interview. You want to interview me? Okay, we'll see about that one. Man, my respect for Canon 4 TV is seriously too good. Thank you so very much. But the thing is, it's more LTEL. I know you guys absolutely love LTEL, which is why we've got LTEL, you know, on more often than not now, especially in these precarious times that we live in. But Tel, like I said, the guys love you, man. They really, really love and respect you as well, Tel.
I've got to make a comment now. This person, Agape Church, Kasarani Fellowship,
Sorry, fellowship.
where in Africa is it? I'm not sure.
Possibly.
But I've got a nice story to tell you. A friend of mine was telling me he was traveling through Somalia, and he knew Arsenal were on this sort of they were playing, and he was wondering what the score was. Couldn't get it on his radio or something, and he pulled into a petrol station in absolutely the middle of nowhere, and he filled up with petrol in his Jeep. And then he heard this roaring going on in sort of the back room of the petrol station, and he just went in. He stuck his head in there, and there are a load of local lads wearing Arsenal tops cheering Arsenal on telly. I just thought that was lovely. Somewhere in the heart of Somalia.
Well, my goodness. Again, guys, I'll try and go as quick as I can in the live chat. Try and be patient with me, please. Color King Tim says, board Arteta because it's also cheaper, as it was a cheaper option. We knew that compared to other managers. We know that Kroenke doesn't like to spend, so the choice is easy for him than to take an expensive manager with experience. Lee Collier says, we pay big money for Auba, Pepe, Lacazette, and they never play together. They've played together a few times. And I don't think Arteta has played his best 11 yet, has he? Or
Probably
maybe he doesn't know his best 11.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a good one. Here's a good one. Be positive, guys. It won't change until we are. Oh, fantastic. I'll give you the comment of the live chat so far this morning. See a few more. Who else can I get in quickly? Gumsy Gums says, good afternoon, gents. I don't understand why they don't sack Arteta now, because it's inevitable. We only lost 8, and I'm sure to lose more games this season is over, even with better players. Welcome back, Gumsy Gums. Who else can I get in quickly? Clifton says, good breaking news and message, please. The joke and any good character. Okay. And Ketty is just another Ryan Brewster. And I've just saw, who else do we have here? Good day, Gary, Alex, and Eltel. Gary, you're going to see Gary on the Easy Talk special tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. I know we usually have the Easy Talk on a Friday, but it's the happy holiday season, isn't it, Eltel?
Eltel, yeah.
I hope you're going to sing for us tomorrow. Maybe not. You can only pray. Guys, I can't go through anymore because there's been so many. And if I were to go through all of them, we'll be here for another hour or two, and I don't have an hour or two to go. Who else can I get in quickly? Here we go. We've got a Chelsea supporter who's subscribed. Arsenal need a goalkeeper like Mendy for Chelsea. Leno is too short. Terry.
Well, Shireen, I completely agree. I think Leno doesn't cover those corners the way Emi did. Emi Martinez is a fantastic goalkeeper, approaching world class, and I think Leno's okay, but he isn't world class, and it's hard to find these guys. You think of Guardiola had to go through quite a few goalkeepers, and Klopp did before they found a really good goalkeeper. And yes, Leno's good. I think they did make a mistake. They've let the better one go. And we very nearly let him. Was it Keane who took a shot in our last match?
Yeah. Oh God, Terry, me.
And
Yeah.
Leno, if it had gone in the top corner, Leno wasn't getting it. Whereas if you look at Emi's saves when we had him at the end of last season, he was getting those ones right into the corner. I'm a great lover of a tall goalkeeper. And I do know that Arsenal do look at height, because I had a kid I used to teach who went and played for Arsenal youth team very, very recently. And he was already about 5'9" or 10 by the time the boy was 11. But he stopped growing. He had uncles that were 6'5". His dad was very small and mum, but he stopped growing. And the club said to him, look, unless you're going to be well over 6 foot, it isn't going to work. I mean, they do an activity where they get the players, especially goalkeepers, and presume anybody that's got to perform well in the air, like a centre back, and they get them to stand in front of a block and get them from a standing jump to jump onto the block, and then they put a higher block and a higher block. So they are looking at how well players jump. Willock is for a guy 6'1" to out jump 6'4" Mina centre back is doing well. But yes, for goalkeepers now, there is another thing which Casillas had, the Spanish goalkeeper. Although he was only 6 foot, he had incredibly long arms. So the sort of arm ratio. So when he put his hands above his head, they came out further than most people. So yes, I do like goalkeepers that can cover those corners.
Yeah. Okay. There's just one more comment before I get a little bit serious with everyone who's watching now. Got Ian Barrow who says, back to Highbury Stadium. Yes, yes. Terry, I've been talking about this over the last couple of days. If I was a billionaire owner, would it be possible if I could get in consultation with Islington Council and say, look, Islington, I want to buy back Highbury Stadium. I want to give everyone who's like brought a piece of a plot there and have got their own apartment there. I'll give them back the value of their apartments, a little bit extra. But I want to bring Arsenal back to the Highbury Stadium. Is that a possibility? Could that be done?
No, it's gone. I mean, several weird things about Highbury. One was it was a very small pitch, which encouraged small space players. And it's interesting that it's the small space players we still have. And once you put them on a regulation, our pitch, the Emirates Stadium pitch is the one that is regarded as the ideal, which is why I think it built that big. But you can still make pitches bigger. And I think that, listen, I was at the final match against Wigan, and I was with a friend who was a good bit younger than me and had been supporting Arsenal maybe for 15 years before, but I've been supporting them back from the late 60s. And I did shed a tear, and I didn't expect that to happen. And I've got so many happy memories of that stadium. And at the end, if you look at the picture behind Alex there, right in the middle was the sort of the centre area where I used to get a coffee. And I remember seeing Piers Morgan there a good few times, surrounded by acolytes, all telling him how wonderful a person he was. And I was so proud to sort of be there, and to be where all the great managers had stood and so on, great players had stood. And as kids, it might be interest people to know, we used to go down to Arsenal Stadium because we all lived in that area. And during the summer, all the big doors are open, all the doors were wide open, and we used to sort of run onto the pitch. We'd have sprinklers on, and then we'd run along to the old tunnel and run up the tunnel until somebody threw us out, And it was great. It was great living near the stadium because you'd walk past players on a regular basis, and you'd either get off or just say hello. But it served its purpose. And unfortunately, we didn't move to the site that David Dean wanted, which is at King's Cross. And that was my favourite thing, and have a really big stadium. You wouldn't have trouble with neighbours. At the moment, we can't have many rock concerts because neighbours complain about the noise. And I know Arsenal have been for years. This is an open secret. Every time a property comes available around Highbury Stadium, they try and buy it, so that they eventually have bought all the area, and then they can do whatever they want with it. But we did miss out on going to King's Cross. I think that was a massive mistake. And then, of course, Sky came in. I say unfortunately because I think Sky has got a lot to answer for.
Yeah.
And Sky came in, and instead of the gate receipts being the larger part of what a club brings in during the season, now Sky and worldwide exposure is what's bringing in money. So we've ended up putting all our eggs in one basket, and the game has changed, and the financial aspect of the game has changed under us. I mean, personally, I'd be quite happy to pay to watch Arsenal on TV, but I'm not really interested in watching half the games that they sort of put on Sky. And all you're doing there is a bit like Stanley Kroenke. You're putting money into billionaires' pockets again, which is another story for another day. But I think there is a lot of antipathy with the players to the way they were asked to take a 20% pay cut, and all that helped was Stanley Kroenke. And so there is quite a bit of antipathy around, but let's not deal with that, because what I like about Cannon Fodder is, while we don't skirt around things that need to be critiqued, one of our main features, I think, Alex, you will agree, is we try and keep things upbeat.
Yeah.
And I still get excited the hour before a game, even now, when I think, well, maybe we haven't got the best Arsenal team we've seen for a long time, but I still get excited, because you never know. And the way the EPL is running this year, any result's possible. When you think how easily Wolves trounced us, and suddenly Wolves lose. Was it to Burnley?
2-1. Yeah.
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 So it's a magical game
Yeah.
when you never know what the score is going to be. Yeah.
On that note, brings me to like a slightly serious point. I've always tried to again bring that positivity and remind everyone who's watching now that we want to try and keep the quality and content of a good standard, not of a high standard. That will come over time. And I'm always trying to remind people who are commenting after we've done the live shows or coming to a live chat to try and keep the comments clean. I don't like to see people using vulgar language. I've just seen someone use the word hate. I don't like to see people use that they're saying that they hate Mikel Arteta. And what I do like to see is that people actually trying to control and challenge people who are using those kind of words there. I might have to add another moderator to make sure people are doing and saying the right thing. We can have our opinions, we can have our disagreements, but when you're using personal attacks against somebody, inciting hate, maybe racism or violence, that's not going to happen on Cannon Fodder TV. I'm not going to mention the person who used that word there, but I am going to say, Mr. 999, thank you so very much for counteracting those comments there in a live chat. Which brings me to the end of another live show on morning right into the afternoon. I do apologize for being a little bit late. I will be back 10 p.m. Yes, 10 p.m. We're back in action against Man City. And I might be joined by my wife for a few moments. So you can see my lovely wife has been supporting me for, the longest time. But Terry, I want to say a big thank you to you. And like I say, the comments I've read tell the people really do love and respect your thoughtfulness, your knowledge, your richness in the history of Arsenal. Thank you so very much, Terry.
Pleasure. Well, it's just nice to meet other Gooners, and to keep it upbeat, to critique away as much as we like, use good language, have good manners, and that's what I'd like to see Arsenal do. Have good manners, get out there, respect the badge, and make us proud of being not just Arsenal fans, but they are Arsenal players, and they be leading. But if they're not leading, we'll show them how it's done. We'll critique, but we'll also support you through thick and thin.
Amen. Amen. And actually, we did a get together, I think it's probably season before last. And we live in precarious times, with the COVID-19, very, very serious situation across the whole world. Maybe in the future, on the other side of 2020, there might be a possibility that we could all get together, of course, under the government guidelines. And it would be good to see some of you in the flesh. And of course, Eltel, of course, Eltel lives just a few minutes away from me, so I see Terry every day. No, actually, no, I don't. But who knows the future? The future might be bright, and where we can actually see each other in the flesh and have a get together sometime in the future.
Nice
But
one.
we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, we've come to an end. God, Terry, an hour and 20 minutes has gone very, very quick, Terry. Oh my goodness. Wow. But anyway, those of you watching this live segment, make sure you subscribe, because if you subscribe, you're going to see everything. Well, not everything. You see most things. But if you don't subscribe, you're going to miss out. And I don't want you to miss out. So make sure you subscribe. But if you've been wondering who or what you've been watching for the last hour and 20 minutes, you've been watching Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans.